Happy Halloween, everybody! Hope you guys are having a great Halloween. Hope you guys are either going to costume parties, trick-or-treating, or just doing something on Halloween, watching horror movies, like what I've been doing. Actually, I've not been going to any costume parties or any trick-or-treating or all the other stuff, but just chilling out watching horror movies. But I just want to wear my Goku costume for fun, since of course it is Halloween. And to wrap up my series of horror movie reviews, I'm going to review the original and the best, A Nightmare on Elm Street. And it really is the perfect time to talk about A Nightmare on Elm Street, since it is one of my favorite horror movies of all time. Of course, there's many others. And plus, it's Halloween, so what's a better day to talk about one of my favorite horror movies of all time? And of course, got to say the best for last. And without further ado, let's talk about A Nightmare on Elm Street. So, of course, many of you guys know the plot to A Nightmare on Elm Street, but I'm gonna say it anyway. So, teenagers on Elm Street are having bad dreams. They're having nightmares of this guy named Fred Krueger, who is haunting their dreams, killing all these teenagers, or not really killing them, giving them like scratch marks. And that plot itself sounds scary enough. I mean, you're going to sleep and you're basically getting killed by this guy in your dreams. That's a pretty freaking scary plot, and that's what makes this movie work. This movie, of course, is a classic. I love A Nightmare on Elm Street. It's my favorite movie of Wes Craven. May he rest in peace. And Nightmare on Elm Street, really, when I watched this movie last night, it felt 80s. This is one of those movies where you could definitely tell this came out in the 80s when it comes to the practical effects, the music, the everything about this movie feels 80s. And that's what I love about horror movies that came out in the 80s. It feels like the 80s, and I love 80s movies. So I watched this movie last night, gave me like a warm, cozy feeling to it. That's kind of weird to say it, because this is a horror movie about a guy with razor claws, a red and green sweater, and a hat, and he's all burned up, and he haunts people's dreams. So, saying that a movie about that gets you warm and cozy kind of sounds weird. So the first half of this movie focuses on the character of Tina, who's having nightmares of Fred Krueger, who then meets her friends Nancy and Glenn, who then talks about them having nightmares about Freddy Krueger and their experiences in their dreams and nightmares. And then later on, so the first half of this movie is basically focused on her. We assume that she's the main character, but then she, in her dreams and her nightmares, she confronts Freddy Krueger, and she gets killed by him. So we assume that she's the main character of the movie, since she's the first person to be introduced in the film, but she gets killed. So it kind of surprised me when I first saw this movie back in 2008. Yeah, it was 2008 when I first saw this movie on AMC, when they were doing all the horror stuff back in the day. So it surprised me very much that she got killed, because I figured she'd be the main character. So after her death, we get transitioned on to Nancy, her best friend, who we later on focus on in this entire movie, who is the main heroine or the main protagonist in this film, who is also fighting against Freddy Krueger in her nightmares as well. And I really love the survival aspect of A Nightmare on Elm Street, and really I love how Nancy is in this film, trying to stay awake in this film, because if she tries to go to sleep, Freddy Krueger will kill her. And I really love the survival aspect of this movie, because if you go to sleep, you're done. You're dead. Fred Krueger has killed you. You're done. And I totally forgot that Johnny Depp was in this movie. A young Johnny Depp is in this movie. He plays the character of Glenn. And seeing a young Johnny Depp is actually pretty cool. And I had to look up on IMDb. And A Nightmare on Elm Street was his first film. And I'm like, really? Wow. This is his first film. And not a bad place to start, buddy. Not a bad place to start. And usually it's not really surprising that most stars nowadays, most A-listers, started off in horror movies. Like Jennifer Aniston in Leprechaun, and so many others I can't really think up on the top of my head. And I believe Matthew McConaughey in Texas Chainsaw, I believe the fourth one or fifth, I'm not really sure. I know he was in one of the Texas Chainsaw. After 32 years, this movie still holds up with the practical effects and the blood and the gore in this film still holds up. It still looks very realistic. And I love the scene where Nancy was on the phone and Fred Krueger was on there saying, "I'm your boyfriend now, Nancy," and his tongue comes out of the phone. That doesn't even seem fake. Even in 2016, that still looks very realistic. I love how they did that in this film. And of course, when Glenn gets killed, the blood comes out of the bed. I still want to know, how did they did that? How in the world did they did that? How in the world did they did that? I mean, the 80s, man. They don't make them how they used to anymore. That's a problem with movies nowadays and horror movies. They don't make them how they used to anymore. The blood, also the scene where the girl in the hallway, and Dad turns to Freddy Krueger, tells Nancy, "No running in the hallway." That was a creepy scene. And of course, the iconic scene where Nancy was sleeping and Freddy Krueger comes out of the wall and he's sticking out. That looks awesome job. Wes Craven, you did an awesome job. And it's better than the one we got in 2010. I'm about 6 minutes into this video already and I haven't even talked about Freddy Krueger. Robert Englund as Freddy Krueger in this film was pretty freaking scary. He was actually frightening in this film. I actually bought him being this menacing guy, being this creepy guy that's in a lot of people's dreams, and just killing a lot of kids, a lot of teenagers in their sleep. Robert Englund, I forgot how freaking scary and sinister Freddy Krueger was in this movie. Because if you really think about it, especially if you watch the sequels, which some are better than the others, he's actually pretty campy in the sequels, except for Nightmare on Elm Street 2. That was the last film that Freddy Krueger was actually pretty dark in that film. Very sinister and very menacing, and I also do love how, like in the first half of the movie, it dwarfs people's nightmares. I love how they showed him, like, almost in the distance, almost like a shadowy silhouette in this film. And that's one of the creepy aspects I love about Freddy Krueger, that he is a man, but he's also almost sort of like a demon in a way. He's from the dead. He was also a child murderer who Nancy's mother explained to her that Fred Krueger was a child murderer and all the parents burned him alive. And now he's come back for revenge and coming at people's nightmares and killing all the teenagers. Fred Krueger, and of course it makes sense that that Freddy Krueger becomes an icon after this movie, a horror icon along with Chucky, Michael Myers, Ghostface, Jason, Pinhead, and so many others along that line, and Leatherface as well too. Freddy Krueger is, of course, actually my second favorite horror icon. Of course, my number one will be, of course, Chucky the Man. And Robert Englund very made his character his own. He did a phenomenal job as Freddy Krueger, and I definitely can't see nobody else playing this character. Well, Jackie Earle Haley did play Freddy Krueger in the 2010 reboot, and we all know how that went. He did a terrible job. I also do love how Nancy is a strong character in this movie. She's not a damsel in distress like, "Oh, the killer, help me." That was a bad impression, by the way. But I love how she sets up booby traps in this movie. That was a very smart idea that Wes Craven added to this movie. She sets up booby traps to basically catch this guy, catch this killer, and basically just kill him so we can stop all the nightmares and just leave everybody alone. Guys, what is there more to say about A Nightmare on Elm Street? This movie is a classic. This movie actually is, in my opinion, a masterpiece when it comes to horror. I didn't find anything wrong with this movie at all. And this movie holds up very, very well after 32 years. And of course, it's better than any horror film that comes out nowadays. Just saying. And of course, A Nightmare on Elm Street gets an A+. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Hope you have a very safe Halloween when it comes to trick-or-treating, partying, whatever. Hope you guys are having a good Halloween this year. And hope you guys like my series of horror movie reviews this year. Yeah. Finally got everything out the way this year, unlike last year. So anyways, guys, of course, like the usuals, let me know what you guys think of Nightmare on Elm Street in the comment section down below. And as always, guys, if you are new to my channel and you like this video, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. And sweet dreams, because Freddy Krueger might get you in your dreams.